Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jonathan Taylor. Welcome to our Drafting with Precision and Accuracy for AutoCAD webinar presented today by my colleague Selwyn Pendergast, who's based in Melbourne. I'm based in Sydney. How are you going, Selwyn?
I'm doing well, thanks, Jonathan. And yourself?
Very good, very good. Just a quick mention. Your microphone sounds like it might be quite away from where you're talking. You sound a little bit distant, but
Is
I'm
that is that a little bit better?
a fraction better. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure what to do about that because it's right in my face at the moment.
No, no problem, no problem. It's all good. It could just be my headset. Guys, we'll come back to Selwyn in a minute. It's just a couple of things, just in regards to housekeeping. As we run these webinars, we do encourage people to participate and put in any questions that you might have. If you do have any questions, hopefully in front of you guys, you can all see the Q&A panel. Anything that you have which is certainly relevant to this webinar. It's unfortunate we can't turn it into a clinic where people bring all their issues and whatnot. But if you have anything pertinent to what Selwyn is showing that you'd like to you ask, we'll either get Selwyn to stop and potentially show on screen, or we will save the question towards the end. Either of those two options are available. Otherwise, what we'll try and do is I'll try and answer the questions in the background if we don't need to display anything or show anything live. The other comment is just in regards to this particular webinar recording. It will be available on our Civil Survey Solutions YouTube channel. We always get asked this question midway through the webinar: is it going to be recorded? Yes, it absolutely is, and will be available, I expect, within the next 24 hours on the YouTube channel. And we will make mention of the YouTube channel at the very end on our final slide, just in case you're not sure. But Civil Survey Solutions, pop that into YouTube. You'll get our YouTube channel on all our webinars. Thanks very much for attending today. Selwyn is going to be taking you forward with today's webinar. So Selwyn, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Jonathan, and welcome everyone who's attending or looking at this video sometime in the future. Today we're going to be looking at drafting with precision and accuracy. So I have decided a few things that we're going to present today. We're going to have a look at some efficient drawing techniques. So we're going to boost your productivity using object snaps, object snap tracking, polar tracking, dynamic input, and selection cycling, which will allow you to get positioning in your drawing more accurately and faster. So we're going to address each of those items as we come up to them in a moment. Then we're going to leverage some key inquiry commands. So being an ex-drafty, these are the tools that I would use. We've got ID, list, and quick measure. So we're going to have a look at how we can interrogate some information out of our drawing once we have that information in there. We're then going to have a look at the orientation of our drawing using the User Coordinate System, or UCS. So we'll be looking at rotating our drawing, changing UCS, altering the location of 0, 0, and working with our drawing with different coordinate systems. So we're just going to get straight into it. We're going to initially have a look at object snaps. Most people will have come across object snaps at some stage during their AutoCAD experience. Object snaps allows the user to accurately identify and select specific points on geometric objects. So we can snap to the end point, a midpoint. So if we're on lines or polylines, we can snap the endpoints and midpoints. If we're on a circle, we can snap to the tangent or quadrants or the center. And there's all these other snap modes that are available to us. This ensures that we are achieving precision when working with various design elements, ensuring that points are set exactly where they're needed on the drawing. The O-snap is enabled using the O-snap button on the status bar or by pressing F3. So we're just going to have a look at AutoCAD, and we're going to have a look at O-snaps in our drawing. With AutoCAD, we have the status bar along the bottom of the panel here. On the far right-hand side, we have a little customization button that allows us to select the items that are appearing on the status bar. I have the items on here that I am going to present to you today. The O-snap button or toggle is this button here. So we can see here, OSnap is F3. If we press F3, you'll see that the button turns blue. This indicates that OSnap is turned on. When it is turned on, we are running, or we have a thing called running OSnaps. So when this is enabled, the options that are displayed in this drop list, the ones for the checkpoints, are current whenever we're hovering over an object to select a point on it. So if we were on a line and hovering over a line, we would see the end point and the midpoint of the line as we move along. So having said that, if we start the line command with object snap turned on, so you can see the blue button is enabled here. If we hover over an object in here, we'll see we get a little glyph on screen. If we hover long enough, it will state the snap mode that is available to you. So you can see here, I'm not on the end point of the line. However, with OSnap turned on, it's picking up that endpoint there. If I was to turn OSnap off by pressing F3 and hover over this line, you'll see that there is no snap here. If I click, it's just going to go to wherever I may select. So I'm just going to turn OSnap on again. I'll run the line command again, and I'll come to this point here. And when I click, even though I'm not on the endpoint, I can click somewhere along here. As long as I can see that glyph on screen, it will snap to that point.
Selwyn?
Yes, Jonathan.
Sorry to interrupt. We just had one person just say that they can't see the bottom of the interface where you just chose the snaps. Can I just do a very quick show of hands, please, folks? If you can see where Selwyn had the status bar right down the bottom where he was clicking onto the snaps. Can I just get a show of hands for those that could actually see that? Yeah, okay. So pretty much everyone can see it. So I'm unsure. It could just be a screen resolution at the other end, but it seems to be that
I've just dragged the bottom of AutoCAD up a little bit off the base of the window, which may make it a little bit clearer for that person.
Thank you, Selwyn. No problem. Thanks ever so much for.
So we will see the PowerPoint in the background. Sorry about that. So, but we've got the full AutoCAD. For that person that missed the icon that we went to, it was this one here. And the drop list was the item next to it. Okay, so we can snap to the endpoint, we can snap to a midpoint. If I run the line command again, you'll see that it's picking up a midpoint. That midpoint will be along this magenta line here. If we come down to this line here, we've got endpoint, we've got midpoint, and we've also got endpoint here. When we're selecting an object and we want to get an endpoint, you'll see that we have that first endpoint is displayed on screen. If we press tab, it's going to select the object, and if we press tab again, it will cycle through the OSnaps that are available to you on that segment where we are. So you can see here, if I press tab, I've got midpoint. If I press tab again, it will go to the other endpoint of the line. If I click my left mouse button with that endpoint displayed at the far end there, you'll see that it actually snaps to that glyph that is displayed on screen. If I hover over a circle here, you'll see that's going to snap to the quadrant, and they are displaying on screen. If I come over to this little arc here, we can see we've got endpoint, we've got midpoint, and we've got our other endpoint here. This arc here, there are additional snaps on here. If I press my tab button with that one selected, you'll see here we've got endpoint, then we've got quadrant, endpoint, quadrant, midpoint, and quadrant. So if midpoint and quadrant are slightly off position, you can tab through and you can select the object snap that you wish to snap to. If I click here with that one selected, that will snap to the quadrant of that arc. With the object snap settings, with object snap, any of these items that are turned on are current, as I stated. We can come into object snap settings down the bottom here, and this will bring up the selection of the objects that we want to use for our snapping. You can come in this way if you want. It doesn't really matter, or we just come up here and we select the entries that we want. I'm now going to turn off running object snap. So at the moment, if I was to draw a line, you'll see that there are no snap modes available to me. If I want to snap to something, I can shift right click and I can choose the snap lines, sorry, the snap items that I want to use. So if I want to use endpoint, I can click on endpoint. And when I hover over an object, it will only display the endpoint. I can toggle through and it'll just cycle through endpoint for both of those. And when I click, the glyph that's displayed is where the snap will happen. So it's going to be exactly on that endpoint. The other way of entering snap is with it disabled or turned off. We can start a command. I'm just using the line command here. And if we use the first 3 characters of the snap mode, so for endpoint, if I typed end, midpoint, mid, so on and so forth. So if I start the line command and I type end and press enter, it will snap to the endpoints that are available to me. Okay, so you can have running O snaps on. So whatever is displayed in here or selected in here are the O snaps that are active at the time. With that turned off, we can shift right click and we can choose the O snaps in here. Or if we have a draw command running or a modify command running, we can type the shortcut at the command line. So mid will snap to midpoint whenever I hover over items in here. Okay, any questions about O snaps, Jonathan?
I'm actually furiously typing away in the background here. So one of the questions was regarding the tab. I mean, tab has been around from what I remember, donkey's years.
Yes.
But apparently, yeah, I'm not sure. Well, tab does work and it has always worked. So it's to basically cycle through your snaps. But the question was around whether or not it's not working in a certain version and it only works in a certain version. But I don't see any reason why that would not
No,
be a
it's
thing.
been in the system for quite a long time.
Indeed, indeed.
Many versions.
The only other question was prioritizing the running snap, shall we say, prioritizing which one that you want. Because this individual is basically saying, look, I always seem to get the priority of perpendicular. Maybe when you've got a
If
view
you want
selected,
something to take priority,
you're gonna have to override it.
when you're drawing, when you've got your command running, the best thing is to right click and choose the specific snap that you want,
Yep.
or type the first 3 letters of that O snap, and that will, force that snap to be used.
Thank you, Selwyn. Appreciate
Or
that.
you
Oh,
could come down here and disable everything else that you don't want to use and just leave that single O snap running.
perpendicular is not one of those ones I would personally have. In my experience, I always had turned on because it does tend to sort of anchor perpendicular to something immediately. So
Yes.
the way everyone works differently, I suppose, but I
It's
always had
like
that
the
one.
near is the same. If you use the
Yeah,
near O snap, it'll take precedence over everything else.
yeah, yeah. That
Also, while we've got this on screen, it's worth making note that the node O snap is to snap to an AutoCAD point. So when you draw an AutoCAD point in AutoCAD, I know you can't see that, but if you were to draw a line and use the node snap, you'd be able to snap to that. To the point. So I've got a thing on the screen. I've picked the wrong thing then. Just bring that back. So if I go nod, and you'll see that it'll snap to that node in there, that point. Okay. So we'll move on to object snap tracking. Object snap tracking allows you to get a point on an object or near an object or a certain distance from an object, and allows you to use that as a point to snap to. So we'll have a look at how to do this in just a moment. But basically, we hover over a point or an OSnap in AutoCAD, and we move our cursor around, and we're able to specify where we want to start the object. To toggle object snap tracking on or off, we'll use the F11 button, or on the status bar, we'll see that it is this icon here. So we're just going to jump into AutoCAD, and we're going to have a look at object snap tracking. I'll just press F11 and that will turn that on. So F11 off, F11 on. So what I want to do here is I want to draw a line, and maybe I want to get a point that is a certain distance from a corner. So if I was to start the line command, and if I hover over an object here, we can see that it's acquired that point. And if we come over to the left now, or even over to the right, we'll get a green extension line. Basically, we're coming across in whichever direction this may be. I could go up, I could go down, I could go whatever direction. And if I want, I could enter a figure here, say 2, and that will start that command 2 units along from that corner. If I wanted to bring this line down to the same height as this one here, I could hover over this point here. Just hover, get that point. So I've got that green line. And now I might want to get the intersection of where this start point is up here. Sorry, I can't because of the way I've drawn this. Sorry, I'll just come straight down to this one here. So if I was to turn on ortho, F8, come straight down, that will put that point at the same location or same wide location. I could have used the perpendicular OSnap. However, we've just obtained that position by using object snap tracking. Same thing I'll do up here. I want to start a point up here. So I'm just going to pick this point here, hover, get that green line. I'll get this one here as well, come across, keep coming across. And then when I see the horizontal line and the vertical line, and I click, that will give me that point that is at this location on this line and also the horizontal position. If I came down, I might come down, say 2 units, and say I want to get this point here. I could come up here and across here, and I can acquire that point. I could then go PER for perpendicular and come back up here and put that point here. So basically with object snap tracking, we start a command, we pick a start point, and then we determine which direction we want to go to get the intersection points. Okay, so when we've got the green lines on screen and they converge and we click in that area, that's the location of the object that will be, sorry, that snap point will be placed. Polar tracking enables us to specify certain angles in AutoCAD. So we can have multiples of 90 degrees, 45 degrees, or whatever it may be. But we'll find that when we get to a certain angle, AutoCAD will snap to that polar angle and allow us to pick points in our drawing. The polar tracking can be turned on using F10, or it's toggled on and off using F10. So we're just going to come back into our drawing. I'm going to press F10, and you'll see that the button here has appeared on screen. Polar tracking is enabled. It also has a drop list next to it. If we click on the drop list, you'll see that we have some angles that are specified here. So firstly, we've got 90. So if the polar tracking is set to 90, it will be at 90-degree units or angles. If we go 45, it will be 45, 90, 135, 180, so on and so forth around our drawing. We can also come down into tracking settings. And you'll see here that we've got polar tracking turned on, which is F10, and our increment angle is set to 45. We can add additional angles if we want. So if you wanted one at 12 degrees, we could add that in there, and that will be an additional angle that will be listed when we have the 45-degree selection set. We won't be doing that. I'm just going to delete that, but you can add additional angles in. I'm going to click on OK. And we're going to draw some objects using polar tracking. Also, with polar tracking, we see the angles are stated here. The units that are stated or specified in the display is set on the units that are set here. So I've got decimal degrees here. If I change it to degrees, minutes, and seconds, and come back into this area here, you'll see that the entries have changed based on my units selection. I'll just come back into units, and I'm just going to set that back to decimal degrees. So with polar tracking turned on, when we draw an object in AutoCAD, I'll just draw a line from this point here. Let's come over here. I'm going to come across a set distance, and then you'll see that when we move our cursor around, we've got 0, we've got 45, we've got 90, and you'll see that it's snapping, or it's getting an extension line for each of the 45-degree angles that are available to us. It doesn't mean we have to use that. We can pick points on screen that we want, but when we come across the polar setting, say here, if I went 5 units, that would draw that line at 5 units long. If I have this entry here and go 1 unit, that will draw that line at the 45-degree angle at 1 unit long. So with the polar tracking, we can specify the angles that are presented to you as a draftsperson or a designer. So when we come across certain angles, they will be able to be selected or picked on screen.
Selwyn.
Yes, Jonathan.
Just a quick question, actually quite an interesting question, actually, in regards to the values or units that we use for polar tracking. And in regards to whether or not we can use something that isn't just a degree, but from my knowledge, it's basically degrees, isn't it? There's no degrees, minutes, and seconds or anything like that.
It's the only time that you can get additional settings is to go additional angle, and you could go okay.
There we go. Great.
And that because I'm using sorry, if I go back to units now and I set my degrees, minutes, seconds, it's actually showing as a 3D, but it would actually be the entry that I stated.
Thank you.
So if you need the weird little angles and things, you'll have to enter them as additional angles. Does that answer the question?
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, beautiful. I'm just going to get rid of these couple of lines in here. Okay, the next one we're going to have a look at is dynamic input. With dynamic input, it allows us to enter information into AutoCAD at the cursor rather than the command line. Some people have issues, or previously I've come across, like with training and stuff like that, people have issues with dynamic input and how it works. We're just going to have a quick look at how we can work with dynamic input. And we'll just return to AutoCAD at the moment. You will notice that it is F12 to enable dynamic input, and that is this button here. We've got dynamic input settings as well. If I right-click on the entry here, dynamic input settings, basically everything is enabled. I've just made my entries a little bit larger by using the settings that are in the drafting tooltip appearance. So my tips are going to be on screen and they're going to be larger than you would see on yours. So this is just for clarity. So I'm just going to, excuse me, draw a polyline in here. So I'll just start the polyline command. I'm going to start, I'm just going to go shift right click and I'm going to go near or nearest, and I'm going to start drawing a polyline. I've still got my angular polar snap turned on, but you'll see on screen that we have a entry 6.8839, and we've also got an angle stated that at the moment states 156 degrees. We've also got a little window on screen that says specify next point or something else. To access the or item, you press your down arrow and that will expand that list. If we press the up arrow, that will hide that list. That list is the same that you will see down here on the command line. So if you need, rather than having to come down here and select the items down here, just press the down arrow, which is generally between your numeric and your alpha keyboard. Press down and you'll be able to click on the items that you wish in here. We're not going to do that. We're just going to come across here at the moment. And I'm just going to come across here a certain distance. I'm going to come across 5 units. I'm not going to put an angle in. It's set to that particular angle at the moment. So it was horizontal. I'm going to come down this way. And you'll see that it's snapping to the polar angle at 45 degrees. So I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to put 5 units in here. I'm not worrying about the angle because we've already got that angle specified. I'm now going to come across here and I'm going to come across here 4 units. Now I want to come down here at this angle here. I know that angle to be 84 degrees. So what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do here, is I'm going to specify a length here. I'm going to go 5 for 5 units in length. Now I'm going to press the tab button, which will get me to the angular entry. You'll notice that 5 now has a padlock on it, and that is locked. So here, if I enter 84 for my angle and press enter, it will enter that line 5 units long, and it will be 84 degrees towards the south. Okay, now we'll just continue on. We're going to acquire this point down here. So I'm just going to come over here, hover over this one here. I'm going to come down, and then you'll see that we have that little X here. So it's picking up that point. I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click on close. So when we're drawing a line, to get to the other entry, it's tab. And if we want to go backward to the other, so we can tab between each. And if we use the down arrow or the arrow key, we can get to the options that are available for the command that we're in. So if you want to do undo, you could go U, or however you want to do it. You can still enter the information at the command line if you want. It's entirely up to you, but all the information is with you at the pick box or where your cursor is. Okay, the next thing that we're going to look at is selection cycling. So with selection cycling, when we've got objects in AutoCAD, we can have them on top of, we can draw items that are on top of each other. It's difficult to select items that are on top of each other. So we need to be able to manage that. Selection cycling allows you to efficiently choose among objects that occupy that same area. When the cursor rolls over the overlapping objects, the system alerts the user, offering selection options to distinguish between them. Selection cycling is controlled by the shortcut Control W. So we're just going to have a look at AutoCAD now. I'm going to press Control W, and you'll see that this button here becomes active. Control W will disable it. Control W is on. So I'm just going to disable that just for the moment, and we're going to come into this area here. You will recall I just drew this polyline around here, and we've drawn lines on top of each other. So if I wanted to grab this pink line that's underneath here, if I click on that, it's going to pick this polyline that I've drawn. Even though I've got the holes in the line here, it knows that this line is on top. So what we could do, or what we have done in the past, is we have selected an object, right click, and we've gone draw order and send it to the back. So that will allow you to select that object. However, I'm just going to undo that, and I'm going to turn on selection cycling. So with selection cycling turned on, when I come over here to an object and there's multiple objects on screen, you'll see there's a little glyph that appears on screen that is two little rectangles that are on top of each other. It's just to the top right of my cursor here on screen. If I was to click here now, I'll be presented with a selection window. That selection window allows me to select either this polyline or this one here, because they're both on top of each other. If I wanted to work with the pink one, I could choose this polyline here, and then I could do whatever I want with that one. Okay, so selection cycling, click in there, and it will give you the selection of the objects that are on that location or at that location.
So, Owen,
yes, Jonathan.
Just very quickly, I think on older versions, on 2026, it isn't the case, but on older versions, selection cycling is not a default option found in the status bar. I don't recall it always being there. That was also, just thought I'd mention that.
But all the items on the status bar are available using the customization button on the far right. So if you click on customization, you'll be able to click on selection cycling, and that will put it onto the status bar.
Thank you. I think 2026.
Also be aware. Oh, sorry.
No. 2026, I think, now has it on by default. But yeah, certainly my experience.
Yeah, previous versions didn't have it on by default. I'm aware of that. But also, please be aware that when we have these items on the status bar, even if, like dynamic input here, if I was to turn off dynamic input up here, dynamic input is still enabled. Okay, so even if it's not on the status bar, so I've got to find dynamic input again. Even if it's not displaying on the status bar and it's enabled, it will remain enabled. Okay, so just be aware that if you take it off the status bar and it's enabled, it will remain enabled. Okay. So we're now going to have a look at some of the inquiry commands. So we're going to have a look at the ID command. The ID command displays the X, Y, and Z coordinates of a designated point. It also records this coordinate as the last point entered. You can refer to the last point by typing @ when prompted for a point in subsequent actions. So we're just going to have a look at a couple of these commands here. I'll go into AutoCAD after we've discussed the geometric measure. So we've also got the list command. So rather than IDing a point, we can list an object. So we can list the properties of selected objects, and it goes into a text display on screen, as opposed to looking at properties where you have to go through and locate the items that you need. When we are using the list command, everything is written to the text window in AutoCAD, so you can copy and paste and do whatever you want with that information. The text window, by pressing F2, displays the object type, the layer, the X, Y, Z position relative to the current user coordinate system, and whether the object is in model or paper space. Color, line type, line weight, transparency information are displayed only if they are not set to by layer. So if things are set to their defaults, they will not be specified or displayed in the list command. There's also additional information will be displayed depending upon the object type that you select. The other tool that we're going to have a look at when we go into AutoCAD in a moment is the Quick Measure tool. Quick Measure provides an efficient way to display various measurements in a drawing. By moving the crosshairs near objects, you can instantly access measurement data without additional steps. So rather than using the area command or the measure command to get information, we can use the Quick Measure tool to obtain that information. It'll display line lengths, it'll show angles, it'll reveal the radii of circles, and it will measure distances between perpendicular lines. We're just going to have a look in AutoCAD now at those three items. So I'm just going to return to AutoCAD. The first item that I was going to look at was the ID command. ID is located up under the utilities drop list under ID point. If I click on ID point and click on an endpoint here, you'll see at the command line, it states the X, Y, and Z coordinates of that point. That's all ID will do. It will just give you that X and Y coordinate. If we had a look at properties, let's display properties. So if we select that, we'd have to try and work out where that point is, by putting a point there or something like that, and then we'd have to have a look at properties, although ID will specify that point. If we have a look next at the list command, the list command is located under the properties window. If we click on list, it asks us to select the objects. So I'm just going to select this one that we have here. I'll press enter, and we'll see that we are presented with a text window. To get the text window, you can press F2 to display that. However, the list command here, it's found one object. It's stating the type of object it is, the layer, the space it's in, the unique handle of the object. The polyline is closed. It's got a constant width, it's got an area, it's got a perimeter, and it's also got the points of the vertices. So here, if I was to ID and I choose one of these points, you'll see that that point will be listed up here as well somewhere, that last entry there. Okay, so ID will extract a single point. The list command will allow you to interrogate the entire object and display that. The next tool that we're going to look at is the Quick Measure tool. The Quick Measure tool is located on the Utilities tab. And if we click on Measure or Expand Measure, the first entry there is called Quick. If we click on Quick, you'll see at the command line, it states the same objects or the same items as those listed up here. So we're just going to, it's quick. So when we're hovering over an object in AutoCAD, we can see that it's actually stating the dimensions of that object. So here, horizontally, it's 5.45, roughly. Vertically, it's 4.01. And you'll see in each of the corners, we have an indicator of a right angle. If we come up into this item that I drew up here earlier, and we move our cursor around, you can see here, I did a horizontal line of 5 meters, 45 degrees down, 5 meter length, then I went horizontal, and then I came down at 84 degrees. Okay, so it's reporting the information in here. When I come over to this area here, we can see we've got right angles displaying on screen. If I hold the Shift key and click, this will give me a perimeter and an area of this particular object. If I come into another area here, hold Shift and click, it will state the area and perimeter. If I click on another one, it will add these areas together. As long as these areas are closed, it will add them together. The item that we see on screen that keeps on changing is the coordinate of that location, in case you're wondering. So its area equals 11 and the perimeter is 14. Any queries, Jonathan?
Yes, I have just answered them though. So one was about pressing F2 on the keyboard to display the command log as a window.
Yep.
And the other one was just in regards to whether or not you can change the way in which the list command displays properties of certain objects. And I basically said no. It's basically, it will show you what it thinks you need to see, and unfortunately you can't change that. The only other question which I sort of thought we semi sort of addressed was in regards to the difference of using the list command for an object that is by layer versus an object which is using a color override.
Okay, I'll do a color, I'll do a line type, I'll do a line weight, I'll do pretty much everything on this particular one. Okay, I'll just run a list command, select this one. So I've got line, it's a line, it's on this layer, it's set to a color, and it states that color. It states a line type. Actually, I might just draw another line. I'll go list, I'll choose this one first, and then I'll choose this one. Okay, just so you can see the difference. So this entry here, everything is by layer. This entry here has color set, it has line type set, it has line weight set. So it reports those because they are non-standard for that layer. Okay, so it's been drawn on that layer, but we've specified a color, we've specified a line type and a line weight. So anything that's unique or non-standard will be reported. Does that cover it, Jonathan?
That does. Yeah, perfectly.
Okay,
Thank
beautiful. You. Okay, so I know we're going through this quite fast, but these tools are really good and it's worth going back and working through them. So the user coordinate system is the next thing that we're going to look at. We've probably all had a look at the user coordinate system and got confused about what's going on there. So with AutoCAD, the user coordinate system, or UCS as referred to it, establishes the location and orientation of a movable Cartesian coordinate system. The UCS is an essential tool for many precision operations because it defines things like the horizontal and vertical directions used for features such as ortho mode, polar tracking, object snap tracking. Sorry, I've got an extra comma in there. The alignment and angle of hatch patterns, text and dimension of objects, as well as the orientation and origin for coordinate entry and absolute reference angles. We'll be looking a little bit deeper into that in just one moment. The UCS icon is an icon that appears on screen, and it helps you to visualize the current orientation of the user coordinate system with respect to your current viewing location. You can also use the UCS icon command to change its appearance, including its size and color. The UCS icon can be displayed either at the origin point or in the lower left corner of the viewport. You can display the UCS icon in multiple viewports, and the UCS icon is unique to each viewport based upon the orientation of the UCS. We can display the icon or we can turn it off as well. The UCS icon is always 0, 0. Sorry, not the icon. When you use UCS icon tool, the origin is always 0, 0. The icon is not always at that location. So with the UCS, we can create a user coordinate system. So we can move a UCS, we can rotate a UCS, and we can name UCS definitions. We can move the UCS to a different location. So we might want to set 0, 0 to be a certain point in your drawing, such as a fence line or the corner of a property. So doing so will establish a clear origin, which makes it possible to measure angles or map out property lines starting from this defined point. Rather than having to use calculated coordinates, we can set a local coordinate system. We can also rotate the UCS. So moving it around is one thing, but we might want to rotate the drawing as well. We'll have a look at how we can go about that and what that implies and the implication for that. So we can move a UCS, we can rotate a UCS. We create these UCS views, but we need to be able to reuse them as well. So we're also going to have a look at creating a named UCS as well. So we can restore those if we need to return to our drawing into that particular UCS definition. So having said that, we're going to jump into AutoCAD. And I'm just going to jump into a different drawing. This drawing here, you'll see on the bottom left corner here, there is an icon. This is the UCS icon. And the way it's displayed at the moment, it has the Y and the X. So we've got X and Y coordinates, and we've got a little square at the bottom left, sorry, the bottom intersection there. This indicates the UCS, or the current UCS, is World Coordinate System. So World Coordinate System is like if you're a civil draftee or a civil designer, we're working in a drawing, and we might be using coordinates that are like 53,000, 72,000, whatever it may be. So we need to know what those coordinates are to enter those figures. So this is the World Coordinate System that's in here. If we have a look at paper space, you'll see that the user coordinate system is slightly different. It has it's like a set square sort of situation. But we're just going to concentrate on the model space version of the UCS at the moment. You'll notice the UCS down here. There is a command called UCSICON. And that controls the UCS, or the icon. So we have options in here of on and off. So if we were to turn off, the UCS icon is turned off. If it's turned on, it's turned on. The all option ensures that when we have multiple viewports, so if we split our screen into different viewports in model space, we would have a UCS icon in each of the viewports. If we're in a layout and we go into a viewport in a layout, if all is on, the UCS icon will appear in those viewports as well. The next options here are origin and no origin. So at the moment, when we are looking at our drawing, if I was to draw a line from 0, 0, and I'll just come up to here. If I zoom extents, this, and if I ID this point here, you'll see that this point is 0, 0. The UCS icon is over here. So with the UCS icon, I'm just going to come back to my history here, and I'm going to set this to origin. So now when it's set to origin, it's going to be set at the 0 location, 0, 0. If I zoom out, it's going to stay at 0, 0. If I zoom in, it will stay at 0, 0. However, when I keep zooming and it's unable to put it at 0, 0, it's going to put it at the bottom left of our drawing. Okay, so having said that, I'm just going to delete that one and I'm going to zoom extents. So at the moment it's set to origin. So when I change my UCS, it's going to reposition to my 0, 0 location. The UCS icon, I'm just going to come back into that again. There is an option in here called selectable. So at the moment, if I click near the UCS icon, it does nothing. If I go UCS icon and I make it selectable and change it to yes, I can now click on the UCS icon and I'm able to select it. I can move it around and do different things. I can right click it also, and I have additional options available to me in here. We have a UCS properties button down here, so we can bring up the properties of the UCS icon. So we can change its size, we can change its color, and there's a few other things in here. So with this selectable, I can grab this and I can move this around. And if I position this up on the endpoint here, and if I ID the endpoint, you'll now see that that endpoint is 0, 0. If I move this around again, so it's over there, and if I ID this point here now, we'll see that that ID point is in negative figures because my 0, 0 is up here. So IDing this point up here, 0, 0. So at the moment, we've got a coordinate system in here, and it's set to this location here. I could grab that UCS icon and I could move it over here and maybe place it on the end of this line here. I can also grab the cursor here and I could actually rotate it to be along the orientation of the drawing here. You'll see the drawing has rotated. So now with the UCS icon set in this location, I could put items in here. So if I did text, give it a height, and if I go 0, you'll actually find that it's going to draw horizontally based on the UCS that's set in here at the moment. You will also have noticed that when I change my UCS, if I come back into UCS options down here in properties, sorry, that wasn't there. Sorry, UCS Manager, UCSMAN. If we go into settings, so that was the command UCSMAN. On the settings panel here, there's an option here to update view to plan when UCS is changed. If this is turned off and I change my UCS to something else, say if I rotate this again, our plan won't change. If we come back into UCS Manager, update view to plan, and I change the orientation here again, our drawing will rotate to ensure that X is horizontal and Y is horizontal. Okay, so having said that, on the ribbon, the UCSICON tool is here to turn it on and off. However, we cannot access any of the other commands in here. We have to run the UCS command at the command line. However, if we right-click on the ribbon, we go to Show Tabs, and on here, if we click on the Visualize button, or Visualize Entry, come over to Visualize, we'll have all the UCSICON tools available to us here. So here, show UCSICON at origin, show UCSICON, hide it. There's a few other things in here. We've got rotate around the X, Y, and Z coordinates. And there's a few other items in here. So with our UCS that's set at the moment, we can run the UCS command. So here, we can go P for previous, and that will set the UCS to the previous UCS. We go in here again, we go previous, and that will set it to the previous UCS. Okay, so having previous, all that sort of stuff, maybe we want this particular UCS to be something that is able to be used somewhere else. So if we go UCS, and if we go to named, we can click on save. And if I call this one aligned, I can change my UCS. I can reposition it. I can do whatever I want with it. I've got UCS follow on at the moment, but I can go UCS named and I can restore. If I'm not sure of the names of the saved ones, I've clicked on the question mark here and it will state the ones that are available. So I'm just going to type aligned and that will restore that UCS. Okay. To get back to our normal world view, we could go UCS and then we just press enter for world and that will return us back to our world coordinate system. Up on the ViewCube, up on the top right, up here, there's a little drop list here. So if we click on new UCS, we can create a new UCS based on whatever it may be. But if we want to get back to world coordinate system, we can click on world. If we want to go back to aligned, we can click on aligned and that user coordinate system will be set. Also, a handy one to have with the UCS is with typing UCS, and there is an object option in here. If we click on object, we can actually select a object. I'm just going to click on this. Sorry, I'm going to click on a. I've got 5. So object, OB for object, and if I click on this here, because I'm up this end of the line, it's going to set my UCS based on that line. Okay, then we could go UCS, we could go named, or we could just go S for save, and we could just call this main road. So if we wanted to restore main road, we've got that one in there. So when we have the UCS set, escape out there, go main road. So when we're drawing, it's all going to be based upon this, and our coordinates will be entered based on this location. So the UCS is always, or the origin of the UCS is always 0, 0, and you can move that around. Okay, Jonathan, I think that's about it. If there's any other questions and things.
There was a question. Apologies. Someone's very kindly clarified the question. When you rotate a viewport, it correlates snaps with the drawing's original coordinates rather than orient. I might have to just spend a minute just reading through this. Just while you're, just while I'm doing that, the person who's very kindly put this back in. I wondered if you could just, you mentioned it in your PowerPoint about using ID and then using the @ command when you start a.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I'm going to draw a line, for example. I'm going to ID the midpoint. Okay, so that gives me the ID of that midpoint. So when I draw a line, I'm going to go Shift @ and by doing Shift @ and pressing Enter, it snaps to that last point. So it's set the last point. So if I go last point, so this is a system variable, that setting is that same entry. So when you do at, it's actually referring to that last point.
Okay, yeah, I might need to take this question away, just because unless you want to have a quick look at it, Selwyn, in the Q&A, I'm just still not quite sure of
Sorry, where am I looking?
just in the Q&A. I don't know if you can see that, but there's someone's very kindly just put their question back in. I don't know if you're able to see that.
Is there a way to change how rotation is handled in that?
Yes. That's the only open question at the moment. Just while you're having a quick look at that, there were some other questions which I've tried wherever possible just to answer. I think the key one to note is yes, with changing the UCS, you are ultimately changing the coordinate system at the same
Yes,
time. I think that's one thing that it came out was, what happens if
that's
we
what.
accidentally change the UCS or move the origin, and what are the potential knock-ons of doing that?
If you're unsure, up here, set it to world coordinate. Just click on WCS or type plan, W for world, and UCS W
Yeah.
to return to world. So UCS world, sorry, UCS enter and enter will take you back to world all the time, every time. So by default, the UCS command, the default response to the UCS command is world. So UCS enter, enter will take you back to world every time. I'm not sure of that query about rotation.
No, okay, that's okay. Well, look, if the individual that has put that question in, you are more than welcome just to put your email or details in the chat. That is only visible to us, where you can actually put your name and details, and we can maybe contact you directly, just to find out what a bit more about, delve a bit more into that question, maybe, and answer it offline from this particular webinar. But other than that, no other questions that have come through.
Okay.
Okie dokie. Well, look, folks, unless we have any other questions in the next minute or so, we are going to end the session there. Thank you, Selwyn, for an absolutely brilliant little session. The little one that I asked you to show, which was about using the at after you've done an ID, which ultimately uses the last point variable. I did not know that one. That was something for me to be able to take away, which was brilliant. So thank you for that.
It's a pleasure.
We will have this recording up. I did say 24 hours, but I appreciate what we now do is put the timestamps together, and meaning that you'll be able to go in and find the part of the webinar that was of most interest to you. So I would expect it maybe tomorrow at some point. If not, it will be first thing on Monday. We'll have that recording up on our YouTube channel. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled on the YouTube channel for that when it's available. Lovely. Well, I'm going to end the session there. As I say that, I've just seen two other questions. Oh, they're not questions. They're just thank yous.
They're thank yous, yes.
Which is wonderful. So thank you all for your attendance today. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Thank you, Selwyn.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jonathan.